Good morning, friends. Here we are. It's Thursday again, and I am really blessed today to have a very special Lighting the Candle, a world that works. I'm Bill Correll, and I'm hosting a dear friend today, along with another dear friend, one I've known a little bit longer than the other. And our special guest today is Meredith Bell. She's going to tell you a little bit more about herself in just a moment. And my other special guest, co-founder, all those other good things, is Lisa Sheehan, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself as well. So what are we doing here? The whole idea of this podcast, and the reason that we've been doing this for 70 some odd episodes, is that somewhere along the way, people will listen to it. We are hopeful that if we build it, they will come. And we are getting feedback from people. So thank you for being listeners. We appreciate that. But we want to bring some empowerment to your day. We want this conversation to be engaging for you. Maybe a little bit of it sticks on you, and maybe there's some new concepts or ideas that you can play with, do a little bit more looking into for yourself. And just remember, when we're having our conversations, the whole world is all about seemings. It's not necessarily a bad day out there. It's not necessarily a good day out there. And we like to say over and over and over, in every moment, there are myriad and endless possibilities of how to experience that moment. Who do you say you are in the matter of your life working and in your life being great? So without any more ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Meredith Bell. And Meredith, when I hand it off to you, I'd like you to say a few things, if you will, about how people communicate with each other powerfully to be understood and to also understand.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to be with you and Lisa today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You know, really my whole professional life, I've been looking at and actually practicing myself these various communication skills because I'm all about relationship building. I've been in the software business the past 27 years, have the same business partners for over 30 years now. And some of our clients have worked with us for over 20 years using our tools. So I'm all about forming relationships and clear communication where people feel valued. You know, for us, it's so important to create an experience where people really look forward to calling us and get a real person and know that they're going to be treated well. Because to me, that's really the core of my purpose, is really elevating others through the way I interact with them.
That's a great answer. And I think it's such a broad subject, a huge umbrella. Lisa, how would you respond to that question? And tell the folks a little bit about who you are and what you do, please.
Lisa Sheehan. I am been in media my whole adult working career, and currently I am also a co-publisher of a conscious living magazine called Epic, Empowering People, Inspiring Community, which is a bi-monthly print magazine, and which is actually how I met Bill. And as far as conversations and communication go, we've talked about communication perpetually, basically, on our podcast, because it's the foundation of any relationship. And I was curious too about the difference that Meredith sees between business partner communications, client communications, and then personal communications, like how she treats them differently, because I'm always curious about that avenue.
Interesting. Meredith, would you like to take it from there?
Sure. Well, you know, with my two business partners, we've worked together for so long now, 30 years. You know, we sort of grew up together. and so there's this foundation of love, trust, respect that makes it very easy for us to be honest with each other quickly, without, you know, hesitation, because we know we have each other's best interests at heart. And so we don't take things personally. We don't let our ego get in the way of, well, what did she mean by that? If they're not clear, they'll ask me to clarify. All right, exactly what are you saying there? And so there's this free, easy interaction that, you know, has come from years of working through. different things. It's like a good marriage. My husband and I have been married almost 40 years. And so in my personal life, I believe in, being honest and really trying to get to the meat of a relationship quickly. And to do that, I think asking questions that demonstrate to the other person I'm really interested in them. And so when you look at, my personal relationships, that's what I strive to do, is really help that other person feel that I'm with them, that I'm listening. And so I carry those habits over into business relationships that I form. So even in an initial conversation with someone, I want them to leave feeling better about themselves, not so much about me from an ego perspective, but that I have focused on them so much that they can feel it and they know I have this depth of caring that is genuine.
Right.
And so that has allowed me to form relationships, I think, fairly quickly and easily. Bill and I were talking briefly, about people who are tuned into your message, get it. And that's sort of what I find, people who have that same value of wanting to, that genuinely care about forming relationships and not having transactions, that they resonate with my approach. And so they are interested in having more in-depth conversations. And so that's great. I'm finding that I have this these relationships that are based, again, more quickly than they might otherwise, based on trust and respect because of how they feel about our interaction together.
Lisa, do you have a follow-on question to that, or shall I take the ball?
Take the ball, Bill.
Okay, all right. So I think it's really kind of cool, and I like the way that that Lisa, the way that she posed the question. And what I'm left with is that we are taught at an early age, our generation. My wife and I have been together for 45 as of June. I started my business in 30. So Meredith, neither one of us can stay at anything for very long, can we? So trying to figure out if this is going to work for us, But see, the thing is that, we were raised in a generation where don't let them see you sweat. Never let them know what you're thinking. I mean, all the way back to the Godfather days, you've got to keep it close to your vest. Your cards have always got to be here where only you can see them. So there was this kind of a metamorphosis through the 70s and the 80s of opening up and trusting, and where we really started to take our emotions, which for the first time probably in the history of humanity in the 1960s, were based on a psychological approach of having the world work for you. You'd start hearing things in the soap opera, Days of Our Lives or General Hospital or something, where the main character is going around, in my world, this is how it works, and this is how I want things to be, and you just don't seem to fit into my world, And I thought to myself as a kid, what does that possibly mean? There's not your world or my world. There's just our world, right? What are these distinctions? Is there something that I don't know? So as I was starting to say, in the 70s and the 80s, we started looking more from the skin out at our environment, at the way we interact with culture, the way we interact with each other. Interpersonal relationships in groups such as church or social organizations like the Lions or what have you. And then in business, there was really, I think, in my opinion, that was the last vestige of change. And I didn't see it coming or get to experience it if it did indeed come, because I left corporate in 1989 to start my own company. So my point is that through my own experience and trainings and people that I've followed and watched and learned from, it makes it easy if you just are one person all the time, and there's always like an extra little tidbit of value that you want to bring people that are paying you. You want to bring value in conversations with business partners where, family and spouses and that sort of thing, they're over, you're bringing value, at some point. It's more or less, You can do that stuff out there with the other people. When you're home here, just eat your corn and shut up, you know? It's quite never that way. But the point is that we still, I think, in some ways, until we get to the point where we're totally comfortable with our own who we are in our own skin, where the authentic person is just always present, and there may still be a little bit of a filter of appropriateness, you know, based on who's listening and who's involved in the conversation. So we're really at a kind of a 30,000 foot level here. And in our podcast, we want to drill down to walking on Main Street. We want to get down into, you know, what's going on beyond the headlines. Who are these human beings that throughout their lives are constantly being, you know, thrust a microphone into their face so they can be asked a question that the person with the microphone is pretty sure they can't answer, you know, just to demonstrate how disconnected human beings are from what's really going on in the world. And what if they're not disconnected from what's going on in the world? What if there's a narrative that says that they're disconnected from what's going on in the world? Wouldn't that be a fun revelation to discover?
Yes. You know, to me, when we think about getting specific, you know, getting on Main Street, in terms of something tangible that people can do about this whole relationship building and communication, I think it all starts with our, you know, attitude and beliefs about what's possible in relationships. Because I believe that in almost every case, I can connect with someone because I have a natural curiosity. And I think that's been one of the key elements for success in relationship building for me and others I see who are good at it also. This natural interest in learning about another person, you know, what makes them tick, what their interests are, what gets them really excited to talk about. So learning to ask questions that are comfortable for, you know, that don't feel invasive, because I have learned over the years, some people are not comfortable with asking what I think of as penetrating questions, kind of going below the surface. And I've learned to observe as somebody reacting, whether it's their nonverbals or something they say, hedging, they're not comfortable going in that direction. So I quickly, you know, change to something that might be, you know, more comfortable for them. But for me, there's a quote from a book that's one of my favorites ever, and it guides me. It's from this book, The Prosperous Coach by Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. And I'm not a coach by trade. I coach people to use our software products and help them. But I love reading books about coaching because there's a lot of parallel to relationship building and having sales conversations and other elements of communication that to me, you know, come from or are related to that coaching world. And so the question I asked in this book, I bring to just about any conversation I have, especially with someone who's new. And it's this question: how can I help this person or serve this person in such a way that they never forget our conversation for the rest of their life? And that to me is profound because it means I can't be focused on myself. If I'm going to truly serve this other person and have it be memorable for them, I need to really listen well. I need to ask questions that help me understand, what are they dealing with right now? You know, what's going on in their lives? Where are they looking for either help or insights or tips or something that could be valuable? So that if I know of a resource or I know of a person that I could introduce them to that would make a difference for them, then that's what I want to do. So that makes a huge difference. And the benefit of having that attitude is that I'm very relaxed because I'm not waiting for a moment when I can start talking about our products, or talking about myself.
Right.
I am there to serve them and to be of help in any way that I can. And I think that that is huge. When people think about how can I improve my relationships, how can I improve my communication skills, and of course, my my business partner Danny Coates and I have written a book on connecting with your team and the top 10 communication skills. But the underlying theme is just taking a genuine interest in the other person, so that they feel that and can respond to that and feel comfortable opening up. So then I find out where I can really be of help to them.
Well, it's really quite a remarkable place to put yourself as a human being. First of all, the distinction of service means that your attention is fully and completely on the other person. And the powerful part of the statement that I heard you make, and what I took away from it, is that this conversation will be something that will be memorable to them for the rest of their life, which essentially means that this is probably going to be an inflection point. If I'm successful, they may not remember me, but they're probably going to remember the day that this happened, and then the next thing happened, and then the next thing happened. And if that's the result, I think you and I have discovered the same interest in human beings to find out what is possible for them that they can discover on their own, as opposed to giving them an answer. So much power is in the discovery and the aha moment that people, talk about. And unfortunately, there are so few people that are experiencing breakthrough aha moments anymore. They only know how to say they did, and it makes no difference in their life. The aha breakthrough moment is where there's a transformation, like a caterpillar to a butterfly, where there's no recollection that it was ever a caterpillar, and there's no information ahead of time that it's ever going to be a butterfly. So a conversation has that power. And in fact, it's the only thing that does. There's nothing else on the face of the planet that can move the world and move the universe the way that a conversation between two or more people. And when a conversation can be propagated to large groups of people, and it's a powerful conversation, not one that's based in carrot and stick kind of mentality, but discovery. And really, that curiosity that you mentioned is all powerful. We talk about that a lot on here. And I'm sure that Lisa's mind is probably going like this. I want to give Lisa just a little bit of credit, because our normal panel, we are highly trained students of life, which means that we've got a zeal and a zest for what we don't know. And let's go find out where we can get access to that. And more times than not, the three of us, with the different types of training that we've been through, and every time I speak to Lisa, she's got some seminar that she's in, she's got some podcast that she's listening to, and these are with great, powerful people. So while we're talking about this whole dynamic of being in a conversation solely for the purpose of serving and allowing for a transformational moment to occur as an intention. Can you even imagine what that would be like if the population went around, that was what they were up to every day? You can.
I can.
It would be.
I was thinking as Meredith was speaking too, because I think you could tell the people that have a natural curiosity in a conversation, they tend to have. I enjoy making friends, and I enjoy digging deeper into their personal lives. And I think the other end of the speaking to serve or to find out more about them is that to be memorable for them is also, it becomes memorable for me.
Yes.
Because I can better remember the person more because of the conversations we've had, the definite differences that they brought out. And I've never been afraid to ask those difficult questions, only because I'm sincerely curious about them. I'm not trying to, dig into just to gossip about them. I'm digging into to find out more about why they changed their name, or, and other people would be like, I could never ask them that, but why? And when I ask those questions, and so often the people will say, thank you for asking me that. Or people that, have suffered a loss, and you ask about the person that they lost, and they said, thank you for asking about them, because everybody's too afraid to ask me. So I think that kind of conversations is where I go. And I'm always, like you said, Meredith, I'm aware of my surroundings constantly. So if I feel a sense of, you know, no, that's not comfortable for me. But most of the times I just think they feel comfortable. They know when they, like you said, when they resonate with you. They know when you are being genuine with your questions, and that you're deeply concerned with what their answers are, and that you will hold them with, integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So I just,
Have you noticed?
and my other thought was, because, can I just say,
Yeah,
because that
sure.
in the Gaelic world they call it your kaim, so it's like all of your life is in a bubble kind of around you, and that's what you carry forward with you. And energetically, you can almost feel when people walk into the room, they have a difference. You can either they're repelling you or they're embracing you, and you know the difference. So I
Right.
think
When the distinction between the two different kinds of energy disappears, that's where transformation is in the process of occurring. And
right.
have you ever noticed that having an intention to produce transformation has nothing to do with being able to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, Lisa, the most memorable conversations for somebody else may be even more memorable for you in some instances than them. But part of the definition of transformation is that it is a causal action to go from here to there and be unrecognizable in change of essence. The other part of it is that the deliverers, or those who are agents for transformation, are they themselves transformed. So it's a group kind of a phenomenon, and it's the kind of thing that people have a difficult time afterwards languaging, like what happened here. They can tell you how it feels many cases, and being in that type of a moment where some people have described it as in conversation, having goosies, or all of a sudden two people are saying the same words at the same time that they've never said before. And the really remarkable thing about that is that first you have to be awake and present and mindful. And then the other part of it is to bring some attention with your intentionality. And all of these things put together are the great raw materials for really helping someone decide whether or not this is the right conversation to go for broke.
Mm-hmm.
How are you ever going to know unless you put it, in front of them? And the neat part of it is, and I think Meredith, you're an expert at this. It's called teasing out, the opportunity for people to reveal themselves in an authentic way, because many people are not. They don't get out of bed going to look to see who can I open up to today.
That's so true. And I think, the older I've gotten, the more I am paying attention to my intuition, which, we can call that your inner wisdom, experience, all of that combines to kind of guide me. So I'm not scripted when I'm going in to have a conversation, let's say with a new person that I've just met. And this is, I can point to an example last week where this gal had been at a presentation I was giving for a colleague. And there was something about, how she interacted with me that just really resonated with me. And so I had reached out to her, connected with her on LinkedIn. We set up a conversation and we had that call last week. And I was listening, a lot. But as I'm listening to both of you talk, the other thing I was doing was speaking my truth to her, as I was hearing what she said and the experiences she was going through in her work. There were, there was some frustration, there was some debating about whether to leave or not. And I just pointed out some things that I was hearing from her and noticing, and asked her some questions. And I affirmed strengths that I was seeing in her. And to me, this is one of the most powerful ways we can serve others, because so many of us, and I'm included, we're all students of life, right? And of ourselves. And learning to be less critical of myself, less judgmental, giving myself credit. One of my purposes is helping others be able to do that too, because I know how freeing it is when you can really appreciate what your strengths are. and own them, step into it and say, yeah, I am really good at this. And it was one of the things I felt in that conversation I really needed to help her do, because she had not been affirmed in her work. Her contributions had been either minimized or discounted, and yet I was seeing this wonderful capacity. And so helping her recognize that she, in fact, did have all of these strengths going for her. I got the most beautiful email from her afterwards where she had taken time to reflect on what I said and realized I haven't been giving myself credit, and just some of the things that, can we call it a transformation? I don't know, Bill. But it was some kind of awakening for her, or reawakening, that allowed her to look at her situation in a different way. And I think will then enable her to make new choices based on letting go of some of the um, bad feelings she was having about herself based on her experiences in that work environment.
Yeah, the evidence that it's a transformation is that the old paradigm is destroyed, that there's no old habits to go back to. They're insufficient. There's no juice or candy there anymore. And it sounds like once you had this direct conversation, which I know you're very good at, which is why I suggested that you talk about this, you are an excellent human being to begin with. And I mean that with an intention. You have for your entire life worked at being the very best that Meredith Bell can be. And when you weren't being the very best, you were always looking for where's the gap and where's the next bit of increase that I can bring here, to be satisfied not only with your ability in service, but also with your ability to be able to attract. Because it's not useful to be really great at something if nobody knows how to get in touch with you. And I think you're working very hard in the time that I've known you at being more in communication with people on social media and those sorts of things. And we're getting close to the top of the half hour here, but I'd like to pose to you, knowing that you are a published author, and I know that most of your expertise has to do with working with teamwork in organizations and that sort of thing. And we've had some really in-depth conversations from our limited experience within our own organizational experience. But in the next half hour, what I'd like to do is to ask you if you can describe some of the concepts that you use that would be applicable, to the community or churches or schools or governments.
Sure, happy to.
All right. So any closing thoughts, Meredith?
I would just, I guess, pose a question to your listeners to think about: how can I be more fully present with others? How can I set aside my own thoughts and ideas, as well as any devices that may be around to distract me? Our thoughts can be the biggest distractions. And so if we come to someone open and willing to kind of release any past experience we may have had from them and approach them in a new way, it can allow us to listen differently and perceive them differently.
Awesome. How about we kick off with that on the other side? Lisa, any final thoughts?
Well, to tag on to what Meredith was saying, to not only be in the moment with the person, but to live for that moment, because it shows a difference, I think, to go a little beyond just being mindful.
To live for that moment. I just want to let that resonate for a moment. So all I can say is that it is an amazing blessing for us to be here having this conversation. We are intending to have transformation occur in the world in a way that it never has before. The only reason that we're doing this is because we're kind of crackpots to begin with. And, that's the whole point of everything, isn't it? So you can find us again on almost every podcast platform, from from Apple podcasts to Spotify, Google Music, so on and so forth. And it's a hoot for me to go and search for Lighting the Candle on Audible, where I spend a lot of time downloading books that I can listen to. So all of that said, we'll be back shortly, and thank you all for tuning in. It's a pleasure to be here with you, both you, Meredith, and Lisa, and then all of you folks at home, who I don't know the names of right at the moment, but give us a little time, we'll find you. Bye for now.
Bye.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, A World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.